there, and welcome to Women Doing Business Differently. I'm your host, Lori Kirstein, and this is the place where we talk to amazing women who are doing their businesses in ways that are not traditional, and also they are stepping out of the real traditional setting of what it means to be a woman. So this is a thrilling time for me. I am happy to introduce you to Felicia Miller Johnson. And I want to tell you a little bit about her, and then we'll get her talking because you don't need to hear me. So Felicia Miller Johnson's name means happy. And look at that smile. Hello. But there was a time that her work-life dilemmas and feelings of imposter syndrome were causing a lot of trouble for her, were causing unrest. So she decided she was ready to live smart, which is one of the things that she teaches, is the smart way of living. She laid her cards on the table, and you'll see why that's kind of a pun and wonderful. She looked for help. She began her spiritual ascension work. Even to say the word spiritual ascension is a big deal, especially when you come out of a traditional place. So she is the owner of Sevenfold Coaching. She provides intuitive feedback and encouragement, which helps people with their business, their personal or relationship dilemmas, and she helps them make smart decisions. She's also the author of the book, Do You Feel Like a Fraud? A Certified Life Coach's Guide to help you recognize and overcome imposter syndrome. Felicia, my dear, thank you for coming on to the show. I'm so happy to see you.
Aloha. How are you doing?
Aloha. Are you living in Hawaii?
No, I am currently in Little Rock, Arkansas, but I used to live in Hawaii, but I still have my aloha spirit. And one of the things is I like to share that with other individuals.
That's beautiful.
All right.
All right, Ms. Felicia, please tell us what your background is in terms of how were you raised? Were you raised to be very polite and respectful? Just tell us a little bit about your sort of good girl setting as a young woman.
Absolutely. So my good girl said I was raised in a military family. So we moved around from place to place, and there was the expectations in my life to complete the goals. It's about the mission. It's kind of like, what the military does, right? But also to have all A's, be smart, be twice as good, always succeed. So that's where my whole imposter syndrome kind of came into place, to where it brought success. Yes, driven and achieved the goals, but it also came with the extra pressures of having to always be the smart one, always having to get A's. And if I didn't do that well, that I was failing in some type of way, or, operating as a fraud if I knew that I was struggling somewhere, but wasn't able to share my truth in that. So that's how I was raised. It had its, like anything, has its perks, and it also has its challenges. Sure.
I was raised also to be very very polite, and I was raised around a lot of adults. My parents were musicians, and they gave lots of house parties. So from the time I was a little bean of a girl, I learned how to be very cheery and polite. And now for me, it was hard to come out of that and actually be able to say, gosh, I'm angry, or I have these feelings or that feelings. Did you have to confront that as well?
Oh yeah. I call that my come to Jesus moment. And that is literally, I think I just had a fight with my husband. I was just frustrated, just didn't know what to do. And I was driving down the road, and it was like, okay, when they talk about Jesus take the wheel kind of thing, like I literally threw up my hands, just like you're gonna have to help me, you're gonna have to show me.
Yeah.
And that is where I literally was behind a white truck. All of a sudden the white truck disappeared, like the ones that kind of pull up and deliver old school newspapers, but it was completely white. And on the back of it, it said, as a matter of fact, I'm wearing my bracelet that I bought from that. But fear not, be not dismayed, for I am your present help. I am with you. It was Isaiah 41:10. It was on a black little piece of sticker, white letters on a white truck. And I was like,
oh my gosh.
And I was like, okay. And so ever since then, it's just like the signs were just, revealed to me and how they talk and communicate with me, God, who I call Emmanuel as well, and my spirit team. And so, but yeah, it was, I don't know what to do. I need help. And ever since then, I just been on this smart journey in order to do that, to live smart and be happier and more confident.
What is smart? Can you tell us what that means?
Yes. So a lot of people have heard the term, work smarter, not harder,
Yeah.
which, it's all about that. I was doing that. But I needed to learn how to live smart. And so live smart means, like, in that moment, I had to see myself and awaken to what was going on in my life, that I wanted something, different. So I had to learn more about who I am. So, like, for example, Felicia means happy, right? And so I had to take the time to find out more about me, and so one of the ways that I even took, like, the power back, people have heard the whole bye Felicia and all that. And that used to irritate me when we talk about emotions and feelings. It used to frustrate me because in that movie, she's being dismissed. And so connected to, I don't want to be dismissed. I have value. I have to, be able to share and contribute. And so I was like, oh, okay, I'm going to take back the power of my name. And that all they're basically saying is bye happy. And so, I was like, it doesn't bother me anymore. But things like that. After that, I had to learn how to master my emotions. As like you were sharing earlier, I would just squash them down. And if you got an emotion, it may be anger. And for those that is watching my video, I'm a Black female. And so, I wanted to avoid those stereotypes, the angry Black woman and all of that. So even then, I'm squashing, that down as well. So I had to learn how to put words to my emotions. Felicia, what are you feeling in this moment? I'm angry, or I'm envious, or I'm just bored. Like, putting actual words to what I was feeling.
Yes.
Then I had to learn how to ask, believe, and receive. And this is also connected to the whole law of attraction principles of, Felicia, what do you want? And there was a time I probably could tell you all day long what I don't want. I don't want that. But it's like, what are you attracting? If you're focusing on that, let's switch it to what is it you do want. What are you asking for? And do you believe you can really have what it is that you're asking? Like, oh yeah, I want this, but I don't think I'm gonna get it. That means I'm gonna block the receiving part. I worked on that, the whole ask, believe, and receive what it is that I wanted in my life.
Right.
Then I also had to learn how to.
Now somebody's knocking on my door. Hold on. Hold on, I'll be right there. So what is smart? Tell us what the smart practice is.
Yes. So there's this whole concept about, work smarter, not harder. Well, I got the message to live smart. And the way that I do that is I had to see myself and awaken. And so seeing myself meant learning more about me. So for example, my name, it means happy. I studied, my birth meanings, like astrology, numerology, like all those different things, assessments, learning more about who I am and how I operate, awakening to myself. I also had to learn how to master my emotions. So like how you were talking about earlier, like I would just squash them. Who's got time for that? And if I got time for that, we got to get to this job done.
Oh my God, right.
Like, just go for it. Or the only emotion, you may express was like anger. And now being an African-American woman, I wanted to squash that too, because you have those whole stereotypes of the angry Black woman, right? So I had to learn how to, be present, ask myself, Felicia, what are you feeling right now? And it may be, I'm angry, or I'm frustrated, I'm bored, whatever the case may be, which is still leading to the see myself, right?
Yes.
Know more about me. Then I had to learn how to ask, believe, and receive. So there was a time that my language was more so about telling you what I don't want versus what I do want. And so with the whole principles of law of attraction, it was like, if I keep focusing on that, I'm gonna get more of that. Or if I was doubting my abilities, which is a big piece of imposter syndrome, it's like you may ask for something, but you're like, oh, I'm not going to really get it. So which means you're blocking your receiving. So I had to maneuver and work all that out as well. I also had to learn how to relax, relate, and release. Shout out to people who watch Different World, you will know that. So, and that meant, being able to be present. I was a human doing versus a human being.
I love that phrase.
Right?
I get that. Yes.
Right. So it was like, those goals just working. So it was like, you know what? Take time, breathe. And that's where my whole meditation came in, being present, what works for me in the area. And release also means that there are some things that I had to release, some people, some emotions, some feelings, some thoughts that I just had to release that from my life because it was no longer serving me.
Right.
And then shout out also to School of Yoda, I had to learn how to talk wisely. What are the words that I was using in my head, talking to myself, speaking out loud? It was like, that means even looking at words like trying. When I look up the word trying, oh, I'm trying to lose weight, or I'm trying to go back to school. Trying literally means difficult to endure, which is a struggle word. So it's like that's connected to the why are you not receiving what you're asking for before? Because maybe the language that you're using. So all of those concepts help me to be a more confident and happier wife, mother, soulpreneur. And so just the acronym, because I'm used to SMART goals from the business world, right?
That's right.
So you can just live smart. And so I can just say those things now, remember all of those principles. Like, Felicia, are you, living smart right now? Are you making smart decisions right now?
It's okay. We're having an interview while we're both at home, and I've got a workman coming in and out of the place, and you've got a phone going. I mean, we're doing business differently.
We're doing business differently, right? Like, oh, it's coming through on my laptop. Like, of course. But
I do have a question for you. You said what you're talking about are very, very profound sort of internal shifts. They're not what's talked about in the sort of so-called normal world, right? Like naming your emotions and things like that. So you said the word trying, and I noticed myself using it, and I even got called out on it by a total stranger in a store the other day. He said, not trying. I'm like, thank you. So the question I have is, we can change our language, but what if inside we still feel like I'm trying? Does that stop the flow in your experience?
Yes. Because it's
in mine too. Okay.
Yeah. And so that's where the work is. That goes back to that very first point of see yourself and awaken. So you have to explore what is behind that inner feeling that you're feeling like you're trying. And that's layered. You have to awaken to that. And releasing that will then ultimately help to relieve those feelings. Hopefully be able to help you to live smart. But it's not, just, oh, I can just think about it 1 second and be done. But it's a constant process. Even now, like the word trying for that, like there may be something that I'll say that, oh, like you're trying, and then I'll immediately just say, but trying is a struggle word. And so then I'll change it. So it's not, perfectionism, but versus awakening to in that moment, being present and like, that's no longer serving me, what is serving me, and just going forth on that. But explore. There's some more work evidently that probably has to be done in order to figure out why you still be holding that onto that.
There's an essence here of looking for the quality of life. That is a very feminine approach to, not frilly. If I say feminine, people might think frilly or something. That's not what I mean. We've all got the feminine and the masculine.
Yes.
And the masculine is very goal oriented. We need goals. We also need the the meaning and in the process.
Yes.
Because
Very,
otherwise we don't enjoy, we don't live fulfilled until we get somewhere. And that's a
it's,
terrible sentence
it's
to
out of
live in.
yeah, because that's how, like, like I said, coming up in the military in the background, like that I was heavy, masculine, dominant, like, yes, this, and
Yeah,
that. And so I had to embrace more of my feminine, power. I had to look at the program that may say feminine means, like, oh, you just want to stay at home and not work, and like all the what media perceived it to be, you
right.
know. And so I had to find out the terms for what does it look like for you, Felicia, and that means like anything. So all the way to, hey, I'm gonna put on my little cute little shirt, but I'm also gonna have on my little, Timberland boots or something like that, like the whole, you know, masculine blend. Like I'm gonna make it to what I want it to be. And so that's how we gotta do that in all areas of our life. Like what is feminine for you and what is masculine for you and how that shows up in your life, your business, all of that. Yeah.
Right, right. So
Mhm.
you've made a big break from what you were doing, in terms of how you saw it. And I gather that the spiritual part of what you're doing is a big step into visibility, right? Am I correct in that?
Oh, for sure. So even though I wrote a book, Do You Feel Like a Fraud, about imposter syndrome, there is a time I was still hiding. And that hiding piece of it was my spiritual skills of clairaudience and how that interacts with me on a day-to-day basis. And
Right,
so how that shows up for me is that God, Emmanuel, spirit team will talk through me through songs, movies, videos, intuitive cards, like just anything. And so I would get that message and I was like, oh, okay. But I was hiding because I didn't tell anybody. Like I was
hmm.
married to my husband for 20 something years and
You
never,
didn't know.
well, the thing about it is like he knew, but I never really just came out and said like, hey, like I'm aware that I have this ability, because there was fear. There was
Yeah,
fear. I live in the South, and I'm a Black woman, and so I was like, who wanted to have this whole perception of being like a witch? Like I need another thing added on. Like no, thank
right,
you. Like no. And so, but it was like that self-awareness piece. I remember the first time my husband and my son jokingly kind of said it. Like they were like, "Oh, mom, we know you're a witch." Now, mind you, I'm not doing anything, but that's what they would say, right? Because these occurrences or these knowings, they'd be like, "Okay, well, you know." And so that used to offend me. I used to defend that. I'm like, "No, I'm not a witch because I have a Christian background." I was like, "No, because the media
right,
tells you what it's supposed to be, and it's devil worshiping and all that." And I transitioned because I'm doing my work, right? Privately. I transitioned to not saying anything. I didn't speak against it. I just didn't say anything when they would say jokingly.
right.
So finally, I got to the point where, he said that, and I was like, not a witch, but I do have these abilities. And then I spoke my truth. And so,
Beautiful.
like, for example, one of the things in that is that he realized it was always there. Like when we met, he came up to me and I was writing down my phone number to him. And this is back in the day when we had pagers.
Oh my goodness, and I remember.
And so I was writing my pager number down because I'm like, I really don't know this guy controlling, And literally, Emmanuel spoke to me and said, no, give him your home number, which is personal. Like you would have more access and all that. And I was like, and so I literally just stopped, scratched it out, and then wrote my home number. And he's like, you've always described it that way. I've always said, a voice said to me, this, and this.
Right,
So there, it was triggers. He was like, yeah, you've always said this or you said that. And so like it was always there. I just never called it clairaudience or an
right.
ability. I just hid it behind that. And so Now I'm just no longer hiding behind that. And that's how now I'm doing my coaching differently. Before I just would have I was hiding behind my education, my work experience,
Right.
coming out and say, oh yeah, and by the way, Emmanuel was just giving me this word and I'm supposed to share with you that says this, and this, or using cards to be able to help people confirm their inner knowings. And so eventually I can no longer hide it anymore. And that's how I'm doing business differently of this is who I am. This is how I help individuals, make smart decisions. And
Right.
those that are ready to receive it will be there and I will be fine. And those that are not, that's okay.
So if I come to you and I say, hey, I'm in a part of my business where I'm I'm tightening up the definition, I'm trying to really pinpoint what I'm doing, how can you help me? How
Yeah.
do you help me?
Well, we'll talk about that word trying.
Oh my God, I didn't even realize I said it. Yes. Oh wow. It's so deep. Yeah.
We'll talk
Right.
about that. So what happens in a session is that, you bring your work or your life dilemma. And because like I said, it's clear audience, you would share a little bit about that. And then we would literally lay your cards out on the table. And based off of what you shared and what your experience would be, there are particular decks that I would use to be able to facilitate that discussion.
Okay.
But I also have blank cards that I include where I'm taking notes. And it all comes into this whole picture of who you are. And then it'll be like you'll get this aha, like, here it is. And then it helps you to make it's either going to give you confidence, clarity, or confirmation of something that you've already known. To be able to then like, you know what, now I'm ready to go take action. I'm ready to make this smart decision. And then you go on to the next thing. All without judgment. I'm not here judging you. It's you can just come and just be yourself. And I'm just here to listen to you, reflect back what I'm hearing, give you a little insight, and then provide your messages that you may have been getting all the time, but you just weren't really,
So you may be able to sort of teach me how to see things too. You may be able to teach me how to start to notice.
Oh yeah, definitely. Because that's the other thing about the spiritual ascension process is that many times I'm helping what we call novice, newbies, seekers. And you're like, I noticed that, I'm always seeing 1111. Or for me,
that would be me. I'm always seeing 1111. Always.
1111 is a master number. And it's
I
many
know.
times where it's getting your attention. And that's how Emmanuel God does things. It's like, I want to give you a notice. And usually
It's
there's
sort of like, is it sort of like this?
that.
Like, I'm here. I'm here.
Yeah, here. But what happens is that so many times people don't stop and reflect until it's really, like maybe like dire. So like right now, we're in the midst of COVID. And a lot of people are starting to awaken because they were forced to stop, sit down, and reflect on their life, right? Like,
Right.
What do I want differently? What do I appreciate? My family, my home, like all those different things. Right now is a time that a lot of people are spiritually awakening in that sense. And so, yes, I do also provide encouragement for those that are on their beginning journey of a spiritual awakening. Because there are times where you think you're crazy. You might be like,
oh God, yeah, all the time.
Like, what? And it's like, no, you're not crazy. It's just how they communicate.
That's wonderful. I do something called wisdom writing,
Yeah.
which I was taught by a woman who I met a number of years ago. And the way that she says to do it, I have changed a little bit. And so what she says to do is you write at the top of a page a question that you have. And then you start writing. You just start writing. And you don't stop writing for 20 minutes. Now, that sounded like hell to me, only because I know that I'm kind of a speed demon and I want to do things right. I want to do things right, which is exactly why I teach Goodbye Good Girl, because I'm giving that up,
Yes.
do it right for me. Yeah. Bye-bye. So what I said to myself was, what I want to do is I want to actually hear what spirit has to say through me. So I challenged myself to wait to hear a word or a phrase and then write those down and then wait for some more words and phrases. And it was amazing. I ended up writing in that way an awesome story, incredible story.
That's what we call it, downloads. You got your downloads.
But I mean, it wasn't, when I say download in that respect, I tend to think it means that, like, boom, I got the whole thing, kind of like the woman who wrote Harry Potter stories and all that. It was like, boom. And then she just sat there and wrote. But for me, it's like a drip at a time.
Yes. And it's still a download. And so that's just it. It's like some people will get it that way all at once. And then other people, like you said, just a little drip, but it's still all coming to you, still receiving. And that's the whole concept of your source, God, spirit team. They know what you are capable of handling and receiving at the time. And so they give it to you the way that will be best received for you at that moment. And that's how you learn. Like I said, later on, you might get something, it might be a whole different subject. And then you'll get it all. Boom. The other thing, like drip. So
and I thought I still sometimes think, like you said, this is crazy. This can't be real. But I remember when I was laid off of my full-time job on July 1st of last year, and that's when I front burnered this business. That I was writing, and it was some concern about the job, and it was before I was laid off. I was furloughed, and what came back through the writing was, no, that's over. That's done. And that was actually well before I got laid off. And I was like, well, we'll see. We'll see if that's real. And it turned out to be absolutely true.
Yeah, well, that's what we do, is that we get these messages, but we have that doubt about what it is. And so, like, when the coaching and when people kind of encounter, and it's like, yeah, I got that. And it just be like a confirmation, like, yeah, okay. And so then you start having confidence and belief in your skills and ability, because everybody is intuitive. Everybody. It's just, if you decide if you're going to be open to that, and if you're going to, as you're talking about, if you're just going to be like, nope, I'm shutting it off, I don't want to deal with it, or are you going to open the gate and let that all you? But everybody has that ability.
Would your spirit be open to you pulling one card for all of us to tell us how to get through COVID?
Sure, you can do that.
Some guidance about that.
Yeah, let's see. What's that? So I'm going to go with this essential oils deck.
Cool.
Because they have like different things, so that way be able to approach. So let's see.
This is awesome. Love this.
Okay, a menu. Oh, well, that's one. Because it completely flipped over. Like, what words of encouragement do we have for people to live smart in regards to dealing with this whole pandemic and COVID? Okay, so the first one was release. Release. And notice the word is tension, which is the essential oil. And so the trigger statement is I have nothing left. You may be thinking I have nothing left in this whole COVID. Maybe, like you said, maybe you lost your job, maybe you lost your money, like all those different things. Like, I have nothing, left. But during this time, we're so connected. The true statement is I nurture myself. That is why the phrase when I was talking about before, this time for us to take back, nurture ourselves, reflect on our life. And the phrase is, dear one, it's time to settle. Create a sacred space where you can be. In that place of rest and healing will unfold. And that was the one that immediately flipped over to
Wow.
that. And so it still had me to continue with that. And so the next one is expansion. We're all going to expand from this experience in COVID with that. So it's connected because the phrase statement is your tender heart is in need of care. Know that your body is here to help you experience a miraculous life. Embrace it. So release this tension from the COVID from the past. Take care of yourself. And knowing that we're all going to prosper and succeed after that. So yeah.
Wow. Yay.
Yeah.
Yay, yay. Yeah. Wow.
So yeah.
It's beautiful. You know what I love about the high spiritual stuff is that it's very practical.
Yes, very practical. And that's actually one of my unique abilities, because a lot of times when we talk about spirituality in life, some people just talk about the spirit realms, like, oh, just heavenly and all this. And then we have this earth, and people just earthly or don't believe in this. And so what my unique ability is bring like both of those together in a practical sense. Okay, yes. Felicia, I get the spiritual. I said, but I'm frustrated with my kids right now. How do I deal with this practically? And so it's like giving encouragement for that. And that is the ability. And that's what I love about this, is that people can have actual ways of living smart. You know, it's just not in woo-woo land or not being open to the spirit, but we're spiritual beings here just on earth. So let's embrace that. Let's look at all of that. But yeah.
Well, as a last question, what advice would you give to younger women, younger Black women, however you feel guided to answer the question, who are stepping into entrepreneurship in a world that still only gives like 0.7% of venture capital money to women, and you know, all of the different ways that we just don't get really a piece of the pie?
Yeah. The advice is live smart, because those things that you just mentioned, they may be what people would say reality, but if that's what reality, but if that's what you're focusing on, that's what you're gonna get more of. So instead, look at the benefits that my business is successful. I'm, you know, prospering. Like, look at that. Live smart in that area. And that way, that's what you're attracting more of versus those other things. And so just to keep it simple, what we already talked about is just live smart. See yourself and awaken, master your emotions, act, believe, and receive what you want, relax, relate, and release, and talk wisely. And that's doing business different. I know people are like, well, do business that way and you'll succeed. And then if you're still, you know, in doubt about that, come schedule a session with me. Let's talk about it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I was just going to say, I'm going to find out all of the relevant information for how people could contact you. And I will be putting it with the video, with the podcast. And yeah, so thank you very, very much. This is, we did it, even with phones ringing and.
That's live. We're living.
We're living.
There's no fake recordings, no this is real life right here. We're living smart, just keeping it moving.
This is real life. And I think real life is the best life. Then you know you've been here once you leave. You're like, I did that thing. I did that living thing.
Yeah. Oh, Lord.
All right, thanks again, Felicia. We'll do this again as your business becomes even more, because that's the only way you can go, right? Is more.
Indeed. And I just want to note that we talked about earlier, I hear your church bells going at 11 for the number 1111.
For the number 11. Nice.
Just something, you know.
Except it's noon.
Oh, well, for me, it's 11. So I guess maybe it's the best for me. It was just like 11. It went back to the whole master number.
Then we'll go with your time frame.
Indeed. Like that's a
Okay.
master number. You're a master, Felicia. 11. Yes, indeed.
Oh, 11 has gone through my life. It's amazing. Yeah.
All right. Thank you,
Well,
Laura.
thank you, my dear. I'll be in touch with you um, to just tell you how wonderful you are and reconnect because we're part of different sorts of business things right now.
Yeah.
We're same group. Keep on keeping on, and thank you for being here.
Yes, thank you. Talk soon. Bye.
Bye.